Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. As I mentioned in my last video, I recently moved across state and had to severely downsize the equipment and props that I use for food photography on a daily basis. I showed you all the props that I saved, and today I'm going to show you all the equipment that I saved and all the equipment that I think is still necessary for me to do food photography even on the simplest of budgets and the most minimal of circumstances. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that I kept were just my vinyl backdrops, which I have white marble, pink marble, and just some terrazzo and textured blue backgrounds. And those are just from Ink and Elm. They're very cheap as far as backdrops go, because you know those can get very pricey. They're pretty water resistant, easy to clean, and they've become a staple for me. So I kept all my light colored backdrops and my simple ones. Because I've used those the most, and I found that I just don't shoot as much with my dark colored backdrops that I did have. So for the ones I kept this marble kind of textured one, this pink marble, this blue textured one, and this kind of terrazzo / like granite kind of colored one, just for a more colorful, different variety of backdrops. And I probably use the marble one the most often, followed by the pink one, just because I find that those fit the majority of circumstances. But the other two provide alternatives for me to use if there is kind of a more specialized shoot that I'm doing, or something that just doesn't want to be the plain, simple, kind of typical backdrop that everybody uses, just something a bit more quirky, a bit more fun. Those really call for like the blue and the terrazzo background. Now the next piece of equipment that I kept, I got rid of the original one that I had, but they were very easy to find at any stores. They're not very hard to come by, and that is my white foam board. That's a trifold board, and then the black cardboard trifold board that I use for my dark shoots. So this is the white board, and it just pops open like this, so you can use it as a backdrop because it sits flat against the floor, but you can also use it to bounce light off onto your image. And it just really works to fill in those empty spaces where you want it a bit brighter, but you don't need an actual light source there. And this is just something that's necessary for nearly every photographer, unless you have perfect conditions in your studio that you use. But I mean, nobody really does have perfect conditions, so I highly, highly, highly recommend getting just some sort of white fill card to prop up on any corner of your shoot, so you can have some more light and some more dimension to your picture, really. And then on that similar note, I also have a black trifold board to do the same thing as the white foam board, which is take away light from the image, but also to act as a background for those darker pictures that I have. Once I do recoup another dark surface, I will be using this as a background as well, but for now it's just used as a fill card. Basically, I use both sides of this, and it's really nice having a trifold board to do this, because you can corner it around a lot better than you can just like a piece of cardstock, and it sits in place a lot easier and just covers the entire image rather than you having to use multiple cards or anything like that. So highly suggest having a white and black foam board that you can use to bounce light, or as backgrounds alternatively, but mostly to bounce light, because that's really necessary in any picture that you do. The next thing that I knew I had to keep with me is my LED lights. These are a constant light source. It's not like a strobe light or anything like that, and they're just LED panels from Newer. I got them off Amazon. I'll put a link in my description for that, so you can see which ones I got, and you can choose, you know, from the variety that they have, because they do have several options. The ones that I have are a white and tungsten light. They have both options, so you can do both of those lights at the same time, or you can do all tungsten or all white. And it kind of just depends on what kind of shoots you want to go for. Some people really like using the tungsten light because it kind of gives a bit more of like a restaurant kind of feel by creating that warmer atmosphere, and you can always adjust the white balance after you go into post. But I typically use the white LED lights that come with this. I have used the tungsten before if I'm using overhead lights, which is very rarely because that's traditionally a no-no in food photography. You usually want to, have all the overhead lights off, but sometimes I do shoot with the overhead lights on just for a bit of extra light, and that's when I'll put the tungsten lights on to kind of match the warmth of those lights, and then I'll just correct my white balance either on my camera while I'm shooting or in post. But I'll show you what these ones look like and the setup that they have, just so you can kind of tell what kind of maintenance they require and how long it takes to set them up and what it would be like to shoot with them. So this is the light panel, and I have two of these, and as you can see they have these barn doors so you can kind of control how much light is coming in, which is really nice because you can close them up and it can just be this one little channel of light if you're looking for a more concentrated light source. Otherwise it's just all the way open, completely on your image. And then on the back you have the toggles for the different colored lights. And you also have the plug-in right here and the switch for on and off. But like I said, I have two of these to kind of balance out the image. If I need, just one light, I'll have one up and use the fill cards to balance out the rest of the light in my image. But usually I'll have both going at varying degrees of brightness to make a more natural look to my setup. To kind of mimic that natural light that I do prefer to shoot with. But I knew that I needed to keep these around because I really do use these, and it just provides a lot more flexibility for your shooting, because you don't want to be stuck not being able to shoot something even if you have a really good idea just because it's dark outside. You always want to have that flexibility, and you don't want to be caught, just in a bit of trouble either if it's a cloudy day and you just don't have enough light, because iPhone lights just really don't do the trick. The next thing I kept with me is my newer diffuser and reflector kit. I've included this in the lighting video that I had released earlier, but it basically is just a diffuser, like a mid-sized diffuser, not super big, not super small, as well as a gold and silver foil reflector that you can put over the diffuser and use on your scene. I don't like using these diffusers more than the foam cards that I have, just because they're a bit more harsh, and just the foil reflects light a lot harsher and more unevenly than the card does. So I would still suggest using the foam boards to bounce light off your image and to take light away with the black one. But these have helped me out in a pinch when I just don't have enough light and I need kind of more of that harsh light reflecting onto my scene. So this is the silver foil reflector side, and as you can see there are like wrinkles in the foils, so that's where the unevenness of the light comes from. And that's why you have to just be a bit careful when you reflect light onto there, because it does sometimes come off unevenly if you don't adjust it. The back of the thing, the diffuser, is also black, so you can take light, you can use it as like the black foam board where you take light away from the scene, and you can prop it up like that as well. On the inside they also have a white filter, I don't know what you want to call it. They just have a white option where you can use it as the white foam board and add light into the scene. But like I said, with the foam board, it's easier to set up and you don't have to prop it up against something because it just like folds for you. This one you do have to prop up with something because it's so skinny and it just sometimes falls over, sometimes doesn't sit in the exact spot you want. So I hardly really use it for that. I really just use it for the diffuser. But here's the gold foil side, and then on the inside is the actual diffuser, which is this right here. As you can see, it just works on diffusing the light. And I have a really harsh light that comes through my side door, and I just use that to block out the light and make it just softer on my scene while not blocking out any of the actual light. You still get the same amount of brightness, you just don't get those harsh shadows and those harsh lines that a really bright light coming through blinds would create on your scene. And it just really gives you more flexibility, just like the LED lights, that you can shoot even when the sun's harsh and even when conditions aren't perfect in your studio. I did get this diffuser on Amazon as well. I can link that in the description for you too, so you can check that out, see if that suits your needs. They also have like round ones, but I just preferred one with a straight edge so it sits up a bit better and it doesn't roll over as much, and you don't have to set up a bunch of other things to prop it up too. The last thing that I kept from my equipment pile in my old place was my tripod. And this tripod I got off Amazon a while into food photography, actually. It wasn't my first tripod that I used. But this one is much better than my old one because it shoots just your regular 3/4 and straight on angle, but it also like comes off so you can shoot at your top down angles as well, which is completely necessary for me. If I'm doing a stop motion video, I need to have that top down capability so I get the same position in each shot, but I can still move things around and don't have to keep moving the camera. So that's a necessity for me to have that capability of any angle that I want to shoot. And it also has 3 different adjustment layers down here in terms of length, so you can adjust it quite a lot. And yeah, this is a really good tripod for me. It's been great, and it's been a lot better than some other tripods that I've tried out. Like I said, I got this one off Amazon, so if it's still on there, I will link it down in the description box for you. But that is one of the things I use in almost every single shoot. And honestly, I think everybody should get a tripod in one of their first purchases for food photography, just because it really helps sharpen up your images and gives you a lot more freedom in moving around the product and manipulating the food a bit more without losing that perfect grid that you had or that perfect image that you had. And it makes it a lot easier in post to edit pictures together, because then you have 2 pictures where the same, like the background is all the same and the only difference is the thing that you changed. So then you can edit it a lot easier because you're not having to adjust the backgrounds to match each other, because the tripod kept those shots consistent. So that is all the equipment that I kept with me from my big move. I hope you found this useful, and I hope that you find equipment that really works for you. Let me know if you have any comments, suggestions, just leave them down in the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I will be coming out with more content very soon, and please feel free to follow me on Instagram over at SporkFed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.